Welcome to the Detroit Sports Room, your home for Detroit sports news and information. Now, here's Jim.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Detroit Sports Room. And who do I have in the room today but Jordan Green? And he is from Motown Sports Talk, and he's a contributor to the Sideline Report. Welcome to the show, Jordan.
Thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I love to talk Lions football with really good Lions fan, other podcasters, other YouTubers, just all getting this community together and talk some Lions talk with all this other stuff that's going on, get that stuff off our mind if we can. So, okay, so I'm going to ask you this first question, and it's, what led to you becoming a Detroit Lions fan?
Well, of course, like I said, it's just like a lot of many other fans you've had on. It's pretty much, I was born into it with my dad. He brought me up into it my entire life. And again, I was born back in '94, and that was right in the middle of the whole Barry Sanders era. And that was, every time I watched a Lions game, it's pretty much all I watched was just him the whole time, and just seeing how electrifying he was. That was what drew me in, and I've just been a diehard Lions fan ever since, my whole life.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's been 40-some years for me, but something else, man. It's something like, you just want to see this team win so bad.
Yeah.
Well, I love my Red Wings. I love my Pistons. I love, all the teams, but it's the one team that hasn't won yet. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the fascination or whatever. But I've just been a fan my whole life, of this team, and I've seen so many things that have happened to them and situations that it seems like, you remember Murphy's Law? Seems like Murphy took up residence at every place that we've ever been.
Right.
So, also, you're into podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
And do you do YouTube or no? You just do the podcasting?
Yep, we upload the podcast to YouTube as well. We just started doing that recently, and that's what we've we break it up into clips too. We break up our different segments into clips, and we also upload just the whole episode to YouTube as well, so people can view just like certain clips. There's a certain topic of the thing instead of watching the whole thing if they don't want to. So just trying to expand all the platforms out there, get our names out there.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So what led you to do this type of thing rather than just being a casual fan, being on the couch, watching the game? What inspired you to become a podcaster?
Well, I mean, that's kind of basically exactly what you said. That whole we were just bored of being casual fans. I originally started this with my brother. That was the whole idea. We would watch every single Lions game every Sunday since, again, we were little, since he was born pretty much. We've always watched them together, and we've always had in-depth conversations. We've always had like a core group of friends, and we all like have deep conversations and discussions, arguments with all that type of stuff. And we were like, we should make a podcast. We should see what other people have on our opinions, on our takes and everything like that. And that's pretty much how it started. And the same thing as you mentioned about your other co-host or your prior co-host. I don't know if you guys still work, but he's just kind of busy, and he's kind of dropped off. He's too busy. He doesn't really work with us too much at all. So that's why I kind of reached out online. I found Jimmy, and it's like I said, he's been an awesome addition to the show. He's brought a whole different dynamic that I love, and I know you've talked to him already, and he's brought way more insight than I would have ever thought, and way more. As you mentioned before we got on air, he brings up so many different topics that I would have never thought about, or so many different scenarios in sports that I would just like, wow, I've never even thought about that. And it's awesome having him on.
He's amazing. That was the last show we just did, was in the room with Jimmy, and he was amazing. He was something else, and I really enjoyed that interview, and I'm enjoying this one too. I'm trying to get to know you a little better, and where do you see yourself or your podcast, or where you want to go with either Sideline or your where do you see that in 5 years? Where do you want to get to? What are your goals?
Honestly, I've never really thought about that far out. I was just literally thinking about trying to get to this year, because that's what I think about this all the time, that I started this podcast back in January, pretty much as soon as Lions football ended, and it was right before the Super Bowl. So I've pretty much done all of this and built it up with not even a single down of Lions football being played. So I'm just trying to look forward to this season and see how this podcast is going to look at the end of the season, how much we can improve and build throughout the season. And I'm writing for the Sideline Report. I just started doing that recently as well, and I'm not really sure where that's going to take me. I'm just hoping to keep writing on there, getting my opinions, getting my stories out there.
This sounds good. It's good to see your opinions out in the media and stuff. And media is different a lot of times because of the fact they are limited in what they can say. And as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, you don't have those restrictions. Well, you can say what you feel.
Exactly.
So, next question. There's a lot of fans that believe that this team is kind of getting screwed over by the refs, or maybe the NFL itself. Two week 5 bye weeks in a row. We have all these calls, the Atlanta, thing where Golden Tate, the 10-second runoff thing, the batted ball thing with Seattle. Houston comes in Thanksgiving, guys is clearly down. Not only do they give them the touchdown, they also extend the olive branch, give us a 15-yard penalty for existing, I think. And, what I mean? It just seems like there's something there to the Detroit versus everything. What's your view on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I feel very strongly about this. I know some say that you shouldn't blame the refs, and I know I will go to the grave saying this, but I think 2014 year was our year. I wouldn't say we would have won the championship, but I think we should have won that game against Dallas. We could have had a deep playoff run, and we should have definitely won that game. And I know a lot of people say that we still had a lot of opportunities after that game, that the refs didn't blow it for us, but I know playing in sports that when you have a huge momentum shift like that can just blow all the air out of any momentum the team even had. So that can just bring the morale of the team down completely. It's crazy how these rules can just change the outcome of a game. Like you mentioned the batted ball in Seattle, that was a last second play that should have been we should have had 0 seconds on the clock and been able to run one more play at that 1 yard line.
The 1 yard line.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I just feel we always get screwed over. And I know Jimmy, I know you talked to him, and Jimmy says he kind of feels that we have more opportunities and it's not always on the refs. But yeah, that's one thing that we have always disagreed on, is I feel that we've always been screwed over by the refs.
I agree with you. And I think you bring up a really good point about momentum, because it's not brought up a lot. And I think that when you have a third down where you can get off the field, and Trey Flowers is called for hands to the chest because it wasn't to the face, that's for sure. So he gets called not once. Then he goes to the ref, says, "Hey, what did I do wrong? I got him in the chest. What are you seeing that I'm not?" Because he's never been called for this in his career, by the way.
Exactly. That was the biggest thing.
Then he tries to correct it, right? And the very next play, they call it again, and it was nothing. So yeah. I don't understand how. I just don't get the fact that how people don't see this as being an integral part of our Lions fandom, is that we get screwed all the time, and I believe we do. That it's my opinion that we do. It really is.
Yeah.
So I mean, the momentum thing is so important. How about momentum in a season? How about the Chicago Bears game when our Calvin Johnson's sitting on his butt with the ball in the air, and that's not a touchdown because he put it down? Really? And then they go and apologize. Now, I got to ask you this one because you're on the same team as I am right now. So, this thing with the next day or whatever, or later on, they come and apologize. What do you think about that?
That is honestly the most irritating and frustrating thing, because it's basically, I know it's them admitting that they're wrong and that they should have whatever, but it's just so irritating that they're like, yeah, basically you should have had another chance to win the game, or we should have gave you another opportunity, but you didn't, so oh well. Like, that's the most irritating, frustrating thing when they come out and say that.
I hate it. I was like, what do you mean you're finally telling us that Calvin Johnson's thing was that actual touchdown? There's 19 seconds left in that game, and you took the game away from us. You literally just robbed us of the first game of the season. That was the first game that season. And how much in the NFL you only have 16 games.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to 17, so I almost misspoke. But you only have 16 games. If you lose 2 because of officiating, No wonder we never win the division, and no wonder we never make the playoffs, and no wonder we never make the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
How can you when you get screwed out of a couple games a year?
Exactly, especially big division games.
Yep. Yeah, it's the difference between 10-6 and 8-8.
Exactly. And even those two plays that you mentioned, the Calvin Johnson play and the Thanksgiving play with Jim Swartz throwing the challenge flag, those both resulted in the rules being changed due to those plays. And I'm sure there's been a couple other rule changes due to Lions plays in the past that I can't think of, but it's like they end up just either finding the most smallest rules that have been in the rule book for 50 years just to screw over Lions fans somehow.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I'm 100% on your team on this one, and I kind of shut up on the last show because I have deep feelings about this. And, I try to give the guests the leeway, and if they have a different opinion, I like that. That's good that we have different opinions. It's not a bad thing to not agree, because everybody sees things from different angles and come from different walks of life and things like that, and just got to be respectful is all. Exactly.
And with Jimmy and I both seeing, like I said, seeing differently on that, it's going to be very interesting to see this season if we have any big controversial calls coming up, how we're going to react to them a little bit differently.
Right? Oh, exactly. That's how I got into this. There was a show called Lions in the Basement, and these two dudes would drink and watch the game and swear and after the game they would say, "Yep, screwed again," and they would keep going on and on about it. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't hear that in the media. I want to do that.
Exactly.
We've adjusted it slightly. I don't really drink, so it's not going to happen. But to give that take of that the media won't give or the head coach isn't allowed to give, and that's another thing I really don't like. I'll get your opinion on this. Do you? I don't think coaches and players should be fined for telling the truth. If the ref screwed you, the ref screwed you. I don't know why. I don't know why we give these guys this, holier than thou criteria, because I think they should be criticized. I'm on board with saying, no, if you do it, you should be criticized, fined, fired, whatever has to be done.
Exactly. Yeah, and as I said, I said the same thing earlier, that it infuriates me so much because they just come out and say that they're wrong, and then nothing happens to them. They have no repercussions. They don't get in trouble. They don't lose their job. It's the same thing. And so who has a voice to come out and say something to them? The players. And especially, like I said, when they come out and admit that they're wrong, I feel like the players are completely justified in slandering the refs in any way. But like if it's unjustified in any way, or if it's completely wrong, then obviously it shouldn't be said. But like I said, I think that the players should be able to say something without being fined.
Yeah, it's not slander if it's true.
Exactly. That's the whole thing.
That's amazing. So, what are your thoughts on Coach Patricia? We'll go there first. What do you think about him as the head coach, and what do you think about him moving forward?
Honestly, Jimmy and I have discussed this on the show many times. I'm actually in favor of Matt Patricia. I actually do think he's a really good coach, especially like when you got to see some of the highlights of him at the Senior Bowl this last year, coaching some of those young kids. Like, I think he's a really good coach. And obviously the results haven't showed everyone. That's what pretty much everyone points at, is you don't have the wins, that you're not a good coach, blah, blah, blah. But I honestly think that especially in this year, he's brought in his players, his scheme. He's finally got the core group of guys. He's gotten rid of supposedly the guys in the locker room that were, according to him, a problem, or not his words, but media's words, all that. So I think that he's finally got his group of guys in here, and I think he's got his coaching staff again. With Darrell Bevel was a huge bring in last year, and then bringing in Corey Undelin this year. I think that's going to be a huge addition too. I think he's going to have a similar scheme to Patricia, and they're already going to know like what they want to do together. So I think that this defense, that's the biggest question. Our offense, even with the second and third string, we were still putting up points last year. So like I said, with Darrell Bevel, I think the offense isn't really the question. I think if the offense can stay healthy, it's going to be a gun show. It's going to be crazy, but the defense is what needs to be fixed. And I think Matt Patricia will be able to fix it this year.
Everybody thinks the offense is going to be great this year, and everybody thinks the defense is going to be bad. I would submit that every time we think that's the case, it's usually the reverse.
Yeah.
I'm just telling. Remember when we thought that defensive line was going to be amazing last year?
Yep.
How are they going to run against all that? Because we just got Mike Daniels, we had Snacks, we got Trey Flowers. We're like, oh, we're going to have a great defense. And the defense was almost worse than the league.
Yep.
The offense was great.
Yeah.
So we had it completely backwards. And this has happened quite a bit as I've watched over the years. That does happen to us quite a bit. But,
yeah.
So you like Patricia. I'm not in that camp. I'm sorry, I'm not. And I don't like his use of timeouts. I don't like his clock management. I don't like how he deals with players. I don't like okay, how do you if you give an inspiring halftime speech and you make adjustments, how come we suck so bad in the third quarter? How come we come out flat in about every single game? And so you're supposed to have those players ready to play. I honestly don't see that in him after halftime. I don't. And we led 14 games last year. So, I mean, we have some potential, but some of them critical 12 men on the field garbage that I saw last year, that's a coaching issue.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's communication to a lesser coach, whatever it is, to me, that's a coaching issue. And, yeah, he's brand new on the job. I try to cut him a little slack, but his defense wasn't great in New England. So I don't expect it to be great here. It's that bend but don't break, which I don't like, to be honest. But what are your thoughts on that Patricia defense scheme-wise? I'm not talking about, you know what I mean. Yeah.
I know, the bend and don't break thing. Obviously, I'm not in favor of it, but I think it depends on what type of team you're playing. When you're playing a really high explosive offense, I think it's the more safe, conservative way to play. But I think the way he only rushes 3 players, I think we definitely need to rush more than 3 players. I think you need to use some creative blitz schemes. He needs to come up with some new type of ways to bring more pressure onto the quarterback instead of, like I said, just playing deep, playing back every single down. And I do agree with you with especially like the timeouts and the just the clock management skills. He definitely has the problem, but like I said, I just kind of attribute that to him still becoming a head coach. I know you said you tried to cut him some slack, but I think that's just my biggest attribution to that is that he's just trying to adjust in his first 2 years and still getting accustomed to it. But I think he'll figure it out this year and he's becoming better at it. But I guess only time will tell.
I hope he does.
Yeah,
I hope he does figure it out. It's not like I'm against him because I am deadly afraid of a rebuild. I just am. I don't want Daryl Bevell to go. I think he's one of the best offensive coordinators in the league.
Yes.
I think that we will have a run game because of Daryl Bevell. I believe that the draft picks that we picked this year and Big V are also from Daryl Bevell's mind. I think DeAndre Swift is his influence as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Daryl Bevell? Let's just go there.
Excuse me. I'm really, like I said, I think Daryl Bevell is probably one of the biggest additions last year out of all the free agents. Everyone we brought on, Daryl Bevell is probably one of the best people, like the best additions to the Lions in general. He completely changed the whole dynamic of the offense, and I think Matthew Stafford paired perfectly with him in the first few games. He was a dark horse MVP candidate in the first, 7-8 weeks of the season. So I think that, and I know you said he's going to bring a really good run game everywhere he's worked before in Minnesota, in Seattle. He's had a really good run game, and he's always been more of a power run style offense instead of just a passing offense. So I think with the addition of DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson, and then Bo Scarborough is more of like the power back, like the thunder to the lightning, so to say, I think it's going to be a real exciting season. And that will, again, help Stafford if we can finally give him a run game and we can finally give him some, like the defense to threat the backfield, then Stafford will actually be able to get just a lot more presence back in the pocket so the defense isn't pressuring him every single time.
That and play action is going to be better. I think it will. There's some people that say it won't, but I believe it will. And to your point about that, they have to respect the run game. So what does that do? The safety has to come up in the box maybe. Defensive players have to play run first instead of play Stafford kill.
Yeah, exactly. You just actually have to pay attention to the running back because of prior years, like I said, all you had to worry about was Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones. You didn't have to worry about or
Calvin Johnson and whomever. And no, I mean, it's been a while because they've been able to just pin their ears back and go after Stafford because we can't run the ball.
Exactly.
Everybody knows it. So it's not a big secret. Once you make a team one-dimensional, it's very hard to win. And we've been one-dimensional this whole time.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest problem.
It's just coming into the game, that's the way we are. You didn't have to make us that way in the first place. So,
yeah.
Give that to everybody. Give that gift to everybody. That was great.
Right.
No, so we've talked about Matt Patricia. What do you think of Bob Quinn? He was recently ranked as one of the worst GMs, or the worst GM in the entire league, barred the two that just started. So what are your thoughts on Quinn, and what do you see from him going forward?
Well, I guess when you have to evaluate him compared to the other GMs, I don't compared him too much to all the other GMs. I don't really know exactly what they're all doing, how much they've made their teams better, especially new GMs. But so I wouldn't necessarily say he's the worst in the league, but I definitely wouldn't say he's one of the better ones. Some of the free agents he's brought in, obviously, we've had some busts. We've had some really good free agents. We've had some really good draft picks. Kenny Galladay was obviously a huge diamond in the rough at the third round. But like some of the first rounds, like obviously Jared Davis has kind of somewhat been a bust. Some people aren't too high on Taylor Decker. I personally am a big fan, but some people kind of question that pick. Again, TJ Hawkinson, people question that. He still has time, but people question that. And obviously there's other picks, but I think he's kind of, when he first brought in, he was building for Jim Caldwell. So I think he was trying to build for a different style of offense and defense. And now he has Matt Patricia, and he's kind of been cycling through offensive coordinators. So I think that has something to do with it too, that he keeps trying to draft for a different style of offense. But it comes down to talent and just drafting good players regardless, and the players that are going to perform on the field. But I do think, again, he has found really good players in the later rounds, especially last year, the 2019 class. Almost every single one of them played, like Will Harris and who else was another one? Just almost the entire 2018 or 2019 draft class pretty much played in meaningful snaps last year. So it's just good to see that from your later round picks being able to contribute at all.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate on that for a minute, because we only had 15 players play the entire season last year. So it's possible that was more due to injury than it was due to them being good. But there was we had a defensive tackle. He never even made the team. So I think that, I can't remember what his name was now, but it was last year's a big defensive tackle that didn't make the team.
Yeah, he didn't even make it in training camp.
I mean, just the injuries are crazy. 15 players last year played the whole season. 17 years before. With all this stuff, and this is what I asked your partner about it, do you believe, and I'm going to ask you now, do you believe that the injuries will be increased because we haven't had a preseason? We haven't had, I guess their strength and conditioning, from what he said, is going to be 15 days instead of 5 days, which is very, very significant to me.
Yeah.
But you're not playing in pads. You're not playing another team. You're not hitting somebody else until the first game. We've never had this, ever.
Yeah.
What do you think it means for the Lions?
I definitely think we're going to see a big increase in injury, not just in the Lions, but across the entire league, because different players, I know we've seen some players who like to post their workouts and stuff on social media, so we've kind of seen what some players have been up to. But if you're just working out with personal trainers, and you said, just working out is one thing compared to hitting and being hit by 400-pound men on a daily basis. It's just, that's a completely different feeling than just lifting some weights and stuff. So it's going to be real interesting to see, especially the first 2 weeks, if we have any big significant injuries. But especially like you just mentioned, with how many Lions injuries we've had the last few years, it's going to be tough to watch. Hopefully we can just get through it healthy the first few weeks.
If we have anybody left by the end of the season. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
I hope so. This is kind of bad news. I just seen this in one of my groups, and not more than an hour ago, someone mentioned that the Lions are refunding. They got an email that said they're refunding their tickets. I mean, for me, that means that we probably won't have fans this year in our stadium. I don't know how other teams are going to do it. I'm trying to figure out, does the NFL, they said they were going to go state by state. Does that make other teams that can have fans have a big advantage over the Lions, since it looks like our governor said no, or something happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that might be a huge advantage that I honestly never even thought of until now. Like, as you just mentioned, that the possibility we might not, even though we have a home field position, that it's not going to make any difference because we can go somewhere else and they have fans that are actually cheering for them, making an actual difference. Even though they say they're going to pump crowd noise in there, we've seen it on the NBA recently and stuff like that. But does that really have that same feel as a huge crowd? I mean, I've never played in a huge stadium like that with tons of people watching me, so I can't tell you how big of a difference that feels, but I can only imagine that just kind of flattens the energy a little bit in the entire stadium. Even though you're rushing and you're hitting people so quickly, it's just got to bring the energy down a little bit. And I'm sure even just what at half capacity, whatever that is, I'm sure that minimum amount of fans is going to bring a lot of momentum to the team that we're playing against.
Yeah, maybe, but also, you know, our fans are, well, they boo sometimes. They get upset.
That is true.
Maybe that's something that they won't have to deal with. You know, I mean, if we look for the positives, maybe there's players that get jittery around a ton of people in the stands and all this other stuff. Some people feed off the energy. Some people, you know, stage fright maybe. I don't know. I mean, it could work out to be okay. It could work out to be, you know, but I think the NFL has to do something about that because I think it's kind of, how am I trying to put it? I think it's not fair. So I think that the NFL needs to make it fair. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to start some rapid fire questions for you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say something and you give me your thoughts on it. You ready?
All right.
Offensive line.
Decent, not great. Definitely is going to be interesting to see with the loss of Graham Glasgow this season. And I know the whole left side's pretty much the same, but that right side, we're replacing the whole two new guys, so it's going to be real interesting to see how it plays out.
Okay. So I was going to say something else, but I want to follow up that offensive line thing, so I'm going to deviate for a minute.
All right.
You don't see Stenberg getting a shot at starting over there at the left guard position?
I don't know. I think Joe Dahl might end up getting the start for sure, but yeah, because especially
he knows. I just want to throw that out there because of he said, "Oh, there's not going to be any change on that side." Do you think they're going to rotate Wiggins and Dahl again?
They could. Wiggins, they re-signed recently, and I know that he's been kind of like that rotational player with us for the last couple of years, so it's going to be. I think he's definitely going to get some more opportunities this year.
Yeah, I think that too. All right, so let's go defensive line pass rush. What do you think about that situation, and do you think it's adequate?
I definitely do not think it's adequate. Me and Jimmy just talked about this in a recent episode, but it's going to be, I know we just drafted Julian Okwara, and he is coming off that leg injury. So I think he's going to be a real exciting player, just depending on his health, if he can come back 100% healthy and still have that same speed, because that's what made him elite when he was in college, was able that speed to get to the quarterback. So if he can still have that same speed, and we still have Austin Bryant from last year, who barely got to play. He got halfway through the season before he still barely saw the field after he was activated. So it's going to be, I'm not too happy with the pass rush right now, but I think Trey Flowers will definitely have a better year with maybe someone a little bit more adequate like Julian Okwara, maybe Austin Bryant, if he can come into his own this year. I think it might take a little bit of pressure off Trey Flowers, that he can maybe get a little bit more sacks and increase his sack numbers this year as well.
I think Danny Shelton's a big addition to plug up the middle, and I also think we forget about Deshaun Hand a little too much as well. Mm-hmm. He was bordering on being an elite when he wasn't hurt, and I don't know how severe the injury was or if he's going to be able to come back to form, but if he does, that's a significant upgrade just right there, because I thought he played really, really well. So we'll see how that goes. Also, I'm not entirely sure we're done. You know what I'm saying? So we haven't signed anybody, and we haven't done much of anything, and I think that's because of the COVID situation and because of the salary cap question marks and all that stuff. Do we need more money for next year? Are they going to lower the salary cap, and by how much? all those questions, I think, are preventing us from signing somebody.
Yeah.
But I'll throw some names out there, like Everson Griffin. There's Jadeveon Clowney is out there, Ngakoue by a trade. Marcus Golden to another extent as a linebacker, Jack linebacker. Do you think any of those names sound like someone you would want on the Lions? If so, who and why?
If I had to pick one, I would pick Yannick Ngakoue, but I don't think that – I just like him from a talent perspective. I don't really like this whole charade he's putting on with arguing with the owner and the owner's son and doing all this publicly and coming at the team. So I don't think, especially like I mentioned earlier, Matt Patricia kind of got out Darius Slay and Damon Harrison and Quandre Diggs, all those supposedly vocal players in the locker room. I don't think he'd want to bring another player like that into the locker room, into that fold, and maybe kind of disturb the chemistry there. So from a talent perspective, that's who I'd want to bring in. But the next person would probably be Jadeveon Clowney. And the reason I would want to bring him in, as you mentioned, is probably the salary cap. He's obviously probably demanding a lot of money. And me and Jimmy mentioned this on a previous episode. Again, Jimmy knows a lot more about this his injury, but the microscopic surgery that he had on his knee is like his cartilage is gone. It's not growing back, basically. This is all according to Jimmy. His words. But so basically his knee is not going to get any better, and it's just more prone to injury the more years he goes on. So I don't think you want to give a huge contract to someone like that who's definitely going, as the years go on, going to become more injury prone like that. So, and then Everson Griffin, personally, I just think we should stay away from. He's too old. He's probably going to want too much for that old. The only reason I would say to bring him in is maybe a little bit of info on the defense for the Vikings, but he's had a lot of off-the-field issues. He's had a lot of history as well. So he's, again, someone that I just think Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia are going to want to stay away from and just keep out of the locker room. So,
Okay. What about Mike Daniels? Would you bring him back? Not at $9 million, obviously.
Yeah. Honestly, I would bring him back, and that's what I originally thought the Lions were going to, because after he hasn't been signed by anyone for a while. Because I know, like you said, his contract was originally for $9 million a year, and I definitely don't think he's worth that. But if the Lions can bring him back at like maybe a couple million a year or veteran minimum, I definitely think he's worth it. I would love to see him back in a Lions uniform.
I would too. I like his energy. I think he actually does add something to this team.
Yeah.
And even on the sideline, he was going crazy and stuff like that. I like the energy. I think we lacked that in Detroit. I think. Yeah, I do. That's something I really liked about him. I didn't like the fact that he was hurt most of the time.
Yeah.
So, that did bother me. So, it is what it is. Okay, so.
I was going to say that's another huge contributing factor to the defensive line as well last year is none of them pretty much got to play together as they were all injured at different times, whether it was Deshaun Hand or Mike Daniels or Ashawn Robinson. Like if they were all fully healthy and got to play the full season together, the defensive line could have been completely different last year.
Yeah,
but the fact
Austin Bryant too.
Exactly,
there's just so many players. It just was like.
Yeah, it could have been.
We're looking at other practice squads for running backs. That's how we got Bo Scarborough.
Yeah, exactly. It's
and
half the team was on IR by the end of the season last year. It was just terrible.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I'm hoping. See, that's what really concerns me about this year. It really concerns me that there were so many people injured last year. Yet, it's crazy. How many more could be injured this year? And because we thought that injuries played a key part in us being, 3-12-1, right?
Yeah.
What happens if this happens again? Do we blame the coach? Do we blame the injuries? And how does that work if there is some sort of mandate right now? There's just a bunch of question marks with this team. It's going to be a very, very interesting season. Very interesting season. I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to have football again.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you're chomping at the bit to start, analyzing some games finally. And, that type of thing. I am too in the room. I'm just, I can't wait. I just can't wait. And I'm hoping, beyond hope, that we have a season and that it starts on time and that all these things happen and go right for us. What's your gut feeling on having a season in 2020? And if so, how much of a season?
I definitely for sure think we're going to have an NFL season in 2020. I think we're going to have a full 16-game season, a regular playoffs. The only thing is that may concern me is it might end up being delayed, whether it be the beginning end up being delayed a couple weeks or a month, or for some possible reason it ends up getting delayed in the middle of the season, like we've seen with the NBA and NHL picking back up recently. So like I feel something like that could happen, but I 100% for sure think that they're going to, without a doubt, play a 16 full game season, because the NFL is different than the other leagues, and I don't want to say it's all about money, but it's definitely a huge contributing factor. And the NFL is more of a league that kind of seems to get things done. Like I said, the NBA was for sure trying to do this bubble. They were the one league that seemed like they were for sure ready to play and had something in plan from the start and just seemed like they were ready to go. And I'm honestly surprised that the MLB and NHL were able to scrape something up to finish their seasons as quickly as they did. I didn't even think we're going to see baseball at all this summer, to be honest with you. So the fact that they were able to do this as quickly as they did is really surprising. And again, them opening this early, all three leagues are open now, and them opening up kind of gives the NFL a blueprint on how to proceed and how they're going about. And again, if a huge player in the NBA ends up testing positive, how they're going to go about it. Are they going to quarantine the whole team, or are they going to quarantine the team that he's played against recently? Like, cause it's going to be interesting to see how the NBA handles it. So,
It is. And it's a thing that we've never had before. And I've been a football fan for quite a while. Never seen anything like this. When the NBA canceled the season, when they said they were going to stop playing, and the NHL stopped playing, and it became extremely serious at that point that we might not have football this year.
Yeah,
we might not. And I'm glad to see that baseball came back or coming back. The NBA is playing right now. So, I mean, something's changed. I mean, so we are getting sports. So let's hope that we can get a Lions season in there and a good season in there. What do you think, given everything that's going on, where do you see this team ending up in the NFC North?
I mean, when you compare it to just the NFC North, I know this is just the hopeful Lions fan coming up, but I honestly think that we can win the division, again, barring injury. I think that this offense, as we mentioned earlier, can be a total gun show. I think it's going to be a really explosive offense if everyone can stay healthy. We have so many. I just wrote my most recent article for the Sideline Report was about how many wide receivers we're going to keep, because with the top three, we obviously have Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, and Danny Amendola, but then we still have Marvin Hall after that, and we've signed Geronimo Allison. We drafted Quentin Cephas. We have so many.
Fulgham,
we have Travis Fulgham. Right now on the team, we have 11 wide receivers signed to the roster right now.
Who do you think makes the cut?
Honestly,
we also have Jamal Agnew.
Yeah, exactly. Who's supposed to be transitioning to wide receiver. And that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be real hard for Jamal Agnew to make the roster if he's strictly slanted as a wide receiver. I think it's going to be real hard for him to make the roster, because I definitely think that the Lions are going to keep Quentin Cephas. They put fifth round pick, I believe?
Sixth, I believe.
Maybe sixth round.
Might be wrong, but
fifth or sixth. He was later round, so they used the draft pick on him. So they were probably going to keep him. Obviously, Marvin Hall.
Wait, because wasn't it Huntley was fifth? Or am I wrong? Maybe I got those two switched.
I think Huntley was sixth. I might be, yeah.
So that's probably what I did. I probably switched those two.
Yeah.
Okay. And if anybody out there knows more, you can just put it in the comments below. It's okay. We can be wrong. It's no big deal. I don't have stats in front of me right now.
Yeah, they were somewhere in that group, fifth, sixth round, but. Right. Yeah, but either way, like I said, they used the draft pick on him, so I think definitely Quentin Cephas is going to make it. And then again, Marvin Hall, he was averaging like 44 yards a catch at one point last year. So I definitely think he's, barring injury and depending on how he does in training camp, I definitely think he might make the team. But then like guys like Geronimo Allison, who we signed, obviously he was supposed to be the number 2 after Devontae Adams, and they cut him, so I don't.
Hurt. It was a pretty good injury, and I want to say it was Achilles, but it might not be that. It's something like that, to where his speed, he is all speed. That guy was fast over there. And he got injured, and I think they just decided that, they weren't going to take a chance on him being able to come back from that.
Yeah.
So it's all a question of if he can overcome that injury and come back to the form that he was. If he can, he could contribute. It could be a surprise. If not, it's no harm in signing him, because you can cut him anyway. No big deal.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't sign him for very much, I don't think. So
no, it's a like a thing. Yeah.
That's already with those 3. That's almost 6 wide receivers right there. So I don't see us signing more than 7 wide receivers to the team. 6 is still a lot right there. So
right. It makes sense. Can you tell me a little bit more about the side lion thing? How did that come about?
To be honest, I was just kind of looking for more ways to kind of get my name out there, do more things in the Lions community. And so I reached out to them, and they just kind of asked to see some examples, which I actually used to write back in 2014. I kind of wanted to start a little blog, Lions blog. So I started writing, and I wrote for about half the season. And honestly, I'm not really sure why. I think I just got too busy. And then it was a few weeks later, and then I was it's already been a few weeks. And so I just totally abandoned it. But so I kind of submitted a few of those old articles that I wrote. And then I obviously showed them my podcast as well and submitted that. And they approved me and brought me on. And I've been contributing them for them. I think it's been 2 months now. So
nice. No, that's really, really good. I'm glad to hear that for you. The thing is, though, that people don't understand how much time it takes to research and to do a good article and to do a good show and all these things. They don't understand the preparation, the editing, the stuff that goes into it unless they've been there. So I know what you're going through. I used to write as well, and it takes a lot of time. It really does to get that, just write the way you want it, and it's representing you.
Exactly.
So you want it to be the best it can possibly be. And a lot of people just don't realize how difficult that actually can be. So I commend you for doing that. I mean, really, it's not an easy thing, especially you got a podcast. You're trying to do it to YouTube now. I mean,
Thank you. Yeah,
I know
I appreciate
you're wearing a
that.
Lion's hat, but you wear a lot of hats,
Oh, yeah. No, I know you said that before we got on that you're busy. You've gotten a lot of different projects, different stuff that you're doing. And same thing here. Doing the podcast, I don't want to try and take all the brag. Jimmy does a lot too, but I do a lot of the research. I write a lot of the notes for the show. I do all the editing. I do almost all the promoting. Jimmy does some of the stuff on Twitter, but I do all the YouTube. I do all the YouTube editing. I do a lot of the stuff, and then writing the articles, doing all the research for that. And then I'm still doing some other projects on the side as well that I do different YouTube and all this different stuff. So I'm still trying to do a job on top of it.
Yeah, that's crazy. You're not human, dude.
Yeah,
a robot or something.
Yeah, I feel like I almost never have any free time anymore. It's crazy. I'm always
that sleep thing doesn't happen much too either, does it?
Yeah, if I get 6 hours, I'm lucky. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right.
Yeah,
4 to 6 is in that range somewhere. Is a good night's sleep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, man, it's been a pleasure having you on today. Can you tell everybody out there how to find you and your shows and your articles and everything that you're doing right now? Break it down for the folks right now.
Of course. You can find everything right on my Twitter page. I pretty much link everything on there, and it's pretty much just Motown Sports Talk everywhere. It's YouTube Motown Sports Talk, Twitter Motown Sports Talk. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. It's all just Motown Sports Talk. You can find us anywhere. Same thing with my sideline reports. I post them all on the Twitter for the podcast as well, so you can find the articles there as well. So
what is your Twitter handle? That'll make it easier for everybody. If they know your Twitter, they can friend you or whatever. And yeah, it might be the wrong term, but
no, you're good. It's just at Motown Sport Talk. That's all it is.
At Motown Sport Talk, not sports, correct?
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, Twitter's handle was one character too much for their Twitter handle. To add that S in there.
I get it. That's funny. It happens to all of us, believe me. All right. So it's been such an interesting conversation. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's been an honor being on your show.
We'll have to do this again, and we'll have to maintain the relationship so we can get each other promoted. I totally believe in collaboration and trying to help others, and I think that's how we get to where we need to go is is helping everybody else out to get there too. You know.
Oh yeah, exactly. Especially as content creators and as Lions fans, we all just need to stick together through this. We need to help each other out as best we can.
Well, we have a little thing called One Pride, and I totally believe in that. And so, like I said, it was a pleasure having you on today.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. But guess what, guys? It's time to go, and we are out.